Good morning, everyone, and welcome for another town hall organized and presented by the AWDC management team. It is a second edition of this year already, and we are very happy to have all of you here today on this very, very hot morning. These days' heat is the reason why we are going to keep it as short as possible for today's session. And that is also the reason why I'm not going to start this presentation with running through the entire list of topics. It will soon become very clear what all the topics of today's edition are. So let's just dive in, I would say. We are going to start this presentation with a contribution of AWDC CEO Karen Rentmeesters, who will give us more information and insights on the Antwerp trade figures. She will tell us what the figures are, explain them, and make us understand what lies behind these figures. So Karen, I let you take it from here.
Yes, thank you. No pressure. I'll hope to explain the figures as best as we can. Just for the record, June hasn't finished yet, so the official figures are January to May 2026. But let's say they are a good indicator, and definitely they encompass our first quarter. A few of the highlights in this overview: the total natural trade. So we've taken out the industrial, the industrial natural, but let's say that the synthetic diamonds are not included. They're a small portion, as many of you know, but just to give you a clear idea, the total natural trade, we see a 10 plus increase year on year in terms of value, up to $9.22 billion. Polished value is definitely the engine. We'll go a little bit deeper in detail in the next slide. Plus 21.4% year on year. And the total carats, almost 20% increase year on year. We do have to say, and we'll dive into that as well, that rough is a high volume but a low price story, as you unfortunately all know. We're now, if we look at those figures, but we'll dive in the next slide a little bit more in detail, to $78 per carat for the rough. So despite the increase in volume, there still is a decrease in value. All right, if we go a little bit more in detail on the trade value, I think the graph is pretty clear. If you look at the first 5 months of the year compared to the year on year, so the same period in 2025, with an absolute high in April, a lot of different variables have influenced that. May, we do see a little bit lower than April, but let's say it's still very much on trend with the trend that we see. So this is the trade value, so a clear indicator. I'm going to take this moment here to highlight that I'm not saying that we're out of the woods. We believe this is a positive signal for Antwerp, but obviously the crisis is still very much looming. And is not yet behind us. But I think it's positive, and let's focus on the positive things. When people say it's 35 degrees, I say, but the sun is shining. So let's focus on the positive sides of these figures. When we look at the volume in the next slide, then obviously it does, I mean, it's a little bit different, but you do see that the March and April figures clearly indicate two highs in the past 5 months, but overall, figures are pretty much in line with the same trend. We obviously, as we go into direction of summer, we do see that rough has been easing a little bit. But if you follow the headlines of the news, of our industry news, I'm sure everyone will understand what the reason is. For example, as many of you know, there have been some curtailing in volumes that are put on the market, for example, from the Angolans. So those are in line and in trend with what we're seeing on the global market. When we look at volume and value combined, this is where you clearly see that in terms of rough, the value definitely is still going down. While we see for polished prices, let's say the average dollar per carat, you can see it there. We're now at $2,313 per carat, is a almost 13% increase in the average dollar per carat price. Obviously, this is about a mix of goods. So for really detailed information, that will require line by line analysis. In any case, if anyone is interested in those figures, up until May and June will be available soon. You can find all the data on our website. When we dive into the next part, which is the polished, I think also always interesting to see and compare 2025 with 2026. What are the main differences? If you look at the export by value and the import by value, you see Switzerland definitely with a significant increase. We also see that in terms of US, we see an increase over the first 5 months compared to last year. Even though obviously, and this will be a topic that we will raise in the segment on external affairs, that obviously the tariff question, which some of you have reached out several times in the past few weeks, and Michael will go a little bit more in detail on what we know and what we don't know. But obviously, those are things that play a role. But overall, if you look at the bars, you can see that that definitely, apart from Israel in terms of export and UK, a minor difference, that we're ahead on all the bars. When we look at rough import, the top sources by volume, I think always interesting as well. Obviously, the turmoil in the Middle East has played a role, but I do want to stress that the trends that we see started well before the start of the war. But it definitely, there's a significant increase. But if you look at Botswana, for example, also a significant increase of rough coming in. India is the only one where we see a decrease. Obviously, importing from India is not the main relationship we have with India. It's more of our export, obviously, but it is significant to say. But across the board, if we look at the figures, Canada, as you know, is winding down, so less goods coming from Canada is absolutely logical. But for the rest of the main countries, we see an increase of rough imports coming from those countries. So that's positive and definitely something that we will continue to actively work on in our relationships with the producers. I think that's the last slide. I think the next slide, really important. My colleague Manuela, head of the Diamond Office, will elaborate on the performance of Diamond Office in the last few months.
Good morning, everybody. As was mentioned in a previous town hall, since last year, we are tracking the operational performance results of the Diamond Office, and we will now go through the results of the month of May 2026. Related to the handling times of shipments, some key messages showing a positive evolution. First of all, the number of imports handled the same day was in May at a level of almost 46%, which is the third consecutive month we are above 40%. The number of imports and exports handled the same day in May was at a level of 72.3%, the highest rate so far. The number of imports with long delay, being more than 5 days, was 95 in May, down 74% compared with the month before, and the lowest rate since January 2025, the month in which we started monitoring these figures. Let's dive some deeper into the handling of the imports. This graphic shows the evolution in percentage of the imports handled the same day compared to the total number of imports of that month. In May, almost 46% of imports were handled the same day, the highest value since we started measuring. Since January 2025, the part of imports handled the same day has more than doubled. This is not an occasional situation. If we look at the last 3 months, we see that the percentage is above 40%, showing a clear shift to a more efficient way of working. So we saw the evolution of the imports handled the same day. Now we are looking at the other hand, being the imports that take more than 5 working days. Where in January 2025, we still had 372 imports where the handling took more than 5 days. In May 2026, we are at a level of 95 imports. So it's the lowest amount in our data set since we started in January 25. With this slide, we want to share some information related to the legal framework of the Diamond Office, because we still receive questions or remarks showing that the situation is not always clear. So besides employees of AWDC, we have inside Diamond Office 2 governmental bodies who are doing controls on the imports and exports of diamonds, being the FPS Economy and the FPS Finance Customs. These 2 federal authorities intervene if shipments are not declared correctly, and AWDC is monitoring these interventions and sees if there are actions we need to take. So for good understanding, the experts inside Diamond Office work for the FPS Economy. If they notice that something is not declared correctly, they report to the FPS Economy, and Economy will then inform Customs, and it is Customs that sets the penalties. So this system of working is not set up by AWDC, but it is set in the law. So every discrepancy noticed during expertise is considered as a breach of the law. We often hear, yes, but it's only a minor error. Well, for Customs, a minor mistake does not exist. A mistake is a breach of law. Especially for polished, there is no tolerance at all. So that is what the government is doing, and what is AWDC doing? Well, we have managed to secure proportionality. That means we went into discussion with Customs and we came to a predictable penalty framework with defined handling times and penalty bands for clear administrative errors. And we constantly monitor that the government keeps itself into this framework. Because prevention is always better, we strongly advise you to use the possibility of inventory. Inventory means a procedure that is foreseen in the customs law, where you can do a self-check of your goods and remove eventual errors before AWDC makes up the import declaration. So it is highly effective, because if you see there's a mistake and you resolve it, and then we make the declaration, you have no penalties and you have no delays. But we see that this procedure is not used frequently. That is why we're going to promote it again by sending a letter to the sector to inform companies of this possibility. AWDC also constantly monitors the adherence of the agreed proportionality and keeps the issue on the agenda of the 2 FPS. Now, what are the reasons for the intervention by the federal authorities? So looking at the month of May, we see that there are 15 cases, of which 10 cases, that's 2/3 of the cases, there was a weight problem. The weight problem remains the dominant trigger for the intervention. Also, the declaration in or out of scope remains an issue. So for imports, please ask your supplier to make a correct invoice and packing list, and also ask him to declare correctly whether or not there are diamonds of 0.5 carat and above inside the shipments. And if you don't feel safe, do the inventory. Then on the next slide, we see the share of governmental interventions related to the number of imports for the period of January 2025 until May 2026. We see that in this period, 216 interventions out of almost 35,000 import declarations were made, which is 0.62% of all imports. Of these 216 cases, 109 there were 109 weight cases and 35 value cases. So that's a very limited number of cases. And we even see that recently the number of value cases has dropped until 10 per month. Also important to inform you about the fact that we encounter a lot of problems in case of goods returned from retailers. So again, especially for these cases, we advise you to do the inventory.
Thank you, Manuela. I'll take over the help desk section. As you know, the help desk has been very active, and if we take the beginning of 2026 as starting point, which obviously the help desk started earlier, but as for this year, so far we've had 518 visitors. As you know, the help desk is the physical area in the AWDC lobby where we welcome you to join us on either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. For all your questions that we can try and help you. I'll get a little bit more into detail on what exactly we can do for you in the next slide. That means on average we had about 7 visitors per opening help desk day. That's about 1,000 questions that were handled on 74 help desk days, with follow-up being done on the questions during working hours in the case that we cannot resolve a question on the spot during the session. In addition to those requests for assistance, we also have an average of 10 emails that go to our compliance mailbox on every working day, so Monday to Friday. The main topics that raise questions or that the questions are asked about is my AWDC onboarding. We've had a peak moment in the past few weeks, as some of you well know, with the submission of the AML report and some technical issues that we've had. But we, I think, have solved or managed to solve the main issues right now. So onboarding my AWDC is definitely one that was high on the agenda of the requests and the questions. Similarly, KYCP platform onboarding, assistance with certain technical issues were the number 2 topic. The AML reports, questions on deadlines, how to upload, because obviously there were some changes in the way these reports have to be filed. And then a 4th topic that remains on the agenda or top of mind is banking, more specifically on how to apply for the basic banking law mechanism. It's important to highlight the things that we do and the things that we can't do. I think managing expectations is always important. What we can do is first-line support and basic guidance. And obviously my AWDC and KYCP platform, those are topics that we assist in and into detail. Then there's the general guidance on AML obligations and due diligence principles. A lot of this links also back to all the information that is available on our website, and that was made available during the Compliance Week, which we'll get in detail to a little bit more in the slides when we talk about our events and the things we've done. I really want to stress that there are certain things that we can't do. We can't do specific one-on-one AML detailed advice or compliance advice. If you have received a certain letter or a question for your company specific, if it's regarding something very specific for your company, we cannot assist or help you. We can make general recommendations, and I'm going to give the example of the case of Italy. Michael will get into that as well in his part of the presentation. But you cannot ask AWDC to make the risk assessment for you. You as a company have to make the risk assessment for yourself based on the information that we can give you. We can help you make that risk assessment, but in the end, it's you as a company who decides whether or not you want to take a certain risk. That is not a job or a mandate for AWDC to do. We do have a list of accountants, compliance specialists that are popping up more and more, which is a good evolution, we believe. Specialized lawyer, otherwise qualified professional advisors are out there. In specific cases, we do recommend to get in touch with those people who can help you specifically and individually on your specific question. We are, and that is important in a nutshell, we do not replace professional compliance or legal advice. If you are involved in something in a certain case, then we do recommend that you seek the specific guidance that you need. For the following requests, we also would like to streamline the efficiency of the help desk a little bit more. If you have a request on My AWDC onboarding or KYCP onboarding, there's no need for you to queue at the help desk. If you send an email to helpdesk@awdc.be, which is the consolidated address for all the issues that we mentioned, and you clearly indicate for which platform you require assistance to be onboarded, then we can help you from there, and we don't need to take in the time or space from the physical help desk agenda. The help desk team will help you and will guide you through the process and arrange everything remotely. So you don't have to come to the help desk physically for those two matters. If you want to be onboarded on My AWDC or on KYCP platform, you don't have to come physically. Send a mail at the email address mentioned in this slide, helpdesk@awdc.be. You can also send us other questions if you don't want to queue in the help desk. And again, our team is continuously monitoring this on a daily basis. What we do recommend, and I cannot stress this enough, this doesn't apply to this, but to life in general, clearly describe your request and provide all the relevant information that we need to help you tackle a problem or an issue. So if you are clear in your description, in your email, and clearly state what your problem is, the faster we can help you and guide you in the right direction. Last but not least, as many of you know, we have the KYCP platform. This is not owned by AWDC, but this is created tailor-made to the needs of the diamond industry. But we find it very important, as we are a couple of months into this system and more people have been onboarded, that we get your feedback on the mechanism and the platform itself. So there's a QR code here on the screen if you scan it with your smartphone, and there will be also a message sent out so you can use a proper normal link. But if you can, please, and if you are a user of the KYCP platform, obviously if you're not a user, this does not apply to you, because we're really asking in-depth question on how you use the platform, whether you understand the platform, etc. So, but if you have been onboarded and if you use the KYCP platform, we would greatly value your feedback, which is the QR code mentioned here on the slide. So please do, asking you, I think 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes of your time to fill in that survey. And that, I think, concludes the part of the diamond of the help desk, and I happily pass the floor to Michael.
Thanks, Karen. So I'm Michael. I'm leading the external affairs agenda at AWDC, and I got a couple of slides just to give you an overview of the issues we're working on. These are some of the more important topics that we're working on, and most of them are known to you. First one being the US tariffs. There's still a lot of uncertainty. There's uncertainty about how the EU-US deal is going to apply to diamonds. And there's also uncertainty about the future of the commitment that we got from the US that European diamonds would be exempted from import tariffs. So we're involved in these discussions at multiple levels with the American embassy, with the Belgian Foreign Affairs, and with stakeholders in the supply chain. On the G7 sanctions, no news in Belgium. We've been implementing the latest regime since the beginning of the year. The Ministry of Economy is doing spot checks on the due diligence statement, and everything works smoothly and well. What we're working on right now as AWDC is to make sure that the same rules are applied, implemented, and controlled in all member states. So we want to avoid that other member states are too lax or too ignorant about these sanction controls. And that's why we're engaged with these member states, their customs service, and the European Commission. The third bullet is Manuela presented the operations of Diamond Office, which are going very, very smoothly and effectively. We continuously try to improve it on multiple levels by increasing the performance of the teams, by increasing digitalization of processes in Diamond Office. But we're also in touch with the government to see if we can adapt the legal framework to make the controls even more effective and faster. Karen hinted upon the Italy case. This is well known for most of you. There has been a severe issue of a diamond trading company that has been not really arrested, but stopped in Italy because they were carrying diamonds with them without having a license. The administrative organ in Italy judged that this was an infringement of the security legislation in Italy and fined the company, seized the goods. So what we're focusing on is to provide the industry with the most accurate and helpful information. In parallel, we're reaching out to the European institutions to make sure that such a measure in Italy is not an infringement on the free movement of goods in Europe. Diamond terminology has been on the agenda for long and will stay on the agenda for long. Talks with the Belgian government, the federal government, on a legislative framework to oblige the use of the correct terminology, meaning synthetic diamonds for synthetic diamonds and diamonds only for natural diamonds. These talks are going well. We see a possibility to have this enshrined in law by the end of the year. So that's a good thing. We're doing that at the Belgian level, which is going fast and well. And we're doing that at the European level as well, which is more complex and more challenging, but it might be important to have such a framework in the EU as well. And last but not least, the city of Antwerp is a very important government level for the diamond industry. We are in continuous discussions with them. And the main focus for our collaboration with the city is to expose the diamond industry in a positive way, obviously, to the people in Antwerp. We want to find ways to make the diamond industry more visible to the inhabitants, to the tourists, to the visitors in Antwerp, and show that Antwerp is the capital of diamonds. A brief overview of all the visits that we had in the past weeks. I'm not going to tell everything about it. Our Belgian ambassadors in key countries are very important stakeholders, so we try to brief them every time they leave to a new destination. We had briefings with our new Belgian ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, the heads of mission that will go to India very soon, and the ambassador in Luanda. In the other way around, we try to keep, how would I say, very much in touch with the foreign representatives of other countries in Belgium, such as the ambassador of Botswana, who honored us with a visit last week. And we also had a visit of the Minister of Mines from the DRC, a very important partner in the diamond supply chain. Aside from the foreign representatives, our own government representatives remain very important. We try to keep on reminding them about the importance, the relevance, and the needs of the diamond industry. had some good discussions with the Office of the Minister of Asylum and Migration on the queues in Brussels airport. And we're frequently talking to multiple members of the federal government. On the incoming visit side, you will see that we've hosted 2 annual general meetings of 2 of the most important organizations in the global diamond industry, which are the World Diamond Council. They organized their AGM in Antwerp, but also the European Federation of Jewelers.
Okay, and the last part of this town hall, of this edition of the town hall, is to celebrate some of our successes. I just want to do a little throwback to some of the events and things that we've organized in the past few months. So we started the year with a youth, it was already March, but it was the first big event that we organized was in the lead up to Consumer Rights Day, where we had an activation and awareness event in the Antwerp Central Station. So we wanted to inform people about the differences, again, between diamonds, or I must say natural diamonds, or just diamonds and synthetic diamonds. We wanted to create awareness with these people and tell them that they need to know their diamond, the diamond that they've bought. We also wanted to remind them to always ask for a diamond certificate when they are buying a diamond jewel. There was also an activation part on this event. We invited people to the central station, and they had the possibility to scan their scan their diamond jewelry for free. It was a collaboration we had there with HRD Antwerp, who had a scanning device there and made it possible to scan the jewelry from all the ones who were passing by, and people could discover whether they owned a diamond or a synthetic diamond in their jewelry. The campaign was had quite an impact. So we were mentioned in 22 news outlets worldwide, and we were also picked up by large industry players like De Beers, for example, who was very interested in the concept and is thinking about eventually copy it in their own activities. We reached with our communication more than 11 million people worldwide. And during the event itself, 82 pieces of jewelry were tested, and 22 of them got the disappointing result that the jewelry contained synthetic diamonds. That was a big event in March. Then the next one was Compliance Week. We organized for the very first time in the history of AWDC, I think I can say, an entire week about compliance and AML. So AML was the full focus of that week. We started the week with organizing a panel discussion on AML with industry experts. Our CEO, Karen, for example, was also part of that panel discussion. And we continued the week with organizing AML training sessions. And these were actually preparation sessions for the AML exam that was going to follow a couple of weeks later. The main goal there was to translate, to provide the diamond traders and AML officers with the theory around the AML legislation in Belgium and give them the tools to translate this theory into their daily practice. Also, during the Compliance Week, we had our help desk on location. Karen just explained what a help desk is for the ones who shouldn't know it. I think that many of you do know what the help desk is and does. But the help desk was also there on location. We received a lot of compliance questions, AML related, but also sanction and embargo related questions. A lot of people onboarded there on the spot for my AWDC and KYCP. So I think it was a really real success this Compliance Week. The target audience were the ultimate AML responsibles of the companies, so on a director level, and also, of course, the operational AML officers on an operational level of the companies. Company directors and everyone interested in the AML topic were, of course, more than welcome to follow, as well as the exam prep session as the first part of the week, the panel discussion. And we saw that most of these these people followed, of course, the panel discussion on Monday. A lot of people were there during that week and took part in that week. 140 participants were subscribed for the plenary session on Monday, so the panel discussion, and nearly 160 people participated in the exam prep session. So we think it was a good initiative, and yeah, it was a very good preparation for what was coming later, a couple of weeks later. And that was the AML exam. Many of you took part in this exam. It was organized, the first edition on May 19 and a second chance exam on June 9 of this year. It was the first large-scale in-person examination for diamantaires on this topic. And the idea was to test diamantaires' knowledge on the Belgian AML law and their ability also to turn this knowledge into their daily practice. The questions were quite challenging. I think that there was a consensus within the entire management team that the questions were quite difficult. So that was a good sign for us also if we look at the results, and I will come to that later. It was mainly AML officers on an operational level who participated in the exam. And of course, if you pass the exam, you get a 3 years exemption of the yearly AML certificate obligation. And a new edition of this exam will be organized next year, will be organized every year. So you get every year the chance to get that 3-year exemption of the yearly AML certificate obligation. Here also, I think it was quite a success. 196 people took part in the exam, of which almost 80% passed the exam. Given the difficulty of the questions, it's a very good score that we reached here. So 80% is the general result for the first edition and the second chance exam altogether. So a conclusion that we can make is I think is that diamantaires take their AML responsibilities very seriously. Almost 200 participants shows that people are willing to show their knowledge and to work on that knowledge. And the high passing grade demonstrates also a strong level of AML knowledge among participants. So very well done for all of you who participated in this first not very easy AML exam. Then another project that we've very recently, at the end of last week, that we've launched, it was the Origema project. I must say that we didn't launch the project then, but we launched a first important milestone last week. The event is initiated or launched to support small-scale artisanal miners in the DRC. And we have 6 mining cooperatives in the Kasai region in Congo who are involved in this project. And the project was initiated by AWDC together with a tech partner, Everledger, the NGO Resolve, who has his feet on the ground within the cooperatives. And also with the financial support of the FPS Foreign Affairs in Belgium. And it's something that is missing on this slide, but also the CEEC, the Center of Certification and Evaluation in the DRC, also was a very important partner in this project. And then also, last but not least, our Bonas company here in Antwerp, who organized the sale of these Origema goods last week. So the project, it breaks through the traditional sales procedure for artisanal miners in the DRC. It ensures 100% traced diamonds by digitally logged data. And it provides access to the international diamond markets for the goods that are mined, which is very important to receive or to result in fair prices for the miners in the cooperatives. The project also ensures that the entire sales value and all the incomes go straight to the local communities. So they go back to the local communities, and there they can help a lot of people in their daily lives. So the project is more than market access and fair prices. Of course, we have 450 people trained in, for example, how to manage a mining cooperative with a focus on safety, finance, working conditions in the mines, but also how to, good governance, let's say, how to manage such a mine with focus on peace building in the region and also on capacity building. The idea is there to improve the productivity and the efficiency of the mining activities in these small mining cooperatives. Last week, we had the first sale of these origema goods, these origema diamonds, and we announced this very important project milestone with a press event in the presence of Minister of Foreign Affairs, Maxime Prévost. The press event took place at Bonas, and the sale of 103.77 carats resulted in an average price of $65 per carat, which was a price, or which is a price that is slightly above market value. So this proves that this sale was a very big success. It proves also that the unique role of Antwerp as a rough diamond trading hub with a large presence of international buyers who are raising the competition and which is leading to the best market prices. Once again, we saw that was the case also for this sale of the artisanal goods from the DRC. And now what's next? Well, the blueprint is there, and we hope that the project can be scaled up further, which will allow other cooperatives to follow soon and to sell their productions on international markets, for example, here in Antwerp. Then two more things, and then we will finish, or we will wrap up this edition of the town hall. The first one is a call for you all, or for some of you, because we're addressing mostly the company owners, CFOs, and financial experts of our diamond companies. The idea is, or the fact is, that access to banking and payment services still remain a key challenge for the diamond industry. I don't think that I'm telling anything new here. And also, all of you know that AWDC continues its efforts with Belgian banks, but we are also actively exploring alternative financial service providers that may better serve the industry's needs and the specific needs that we have here as an Antwerp diamond industry. So there are two selected providers who will come to AWDC and who will present their services and their ambitions for the diamond industry. The first one is Realis. It's a boutique fintech solution who is offering tailored solutions for niche industries like, for example, the diamond industry. They have a lot of experience in that part. And then we have the second one, who is Paynovate. It's a payment institution that is focusing on core services such as accounts and payments. So we have invited these two players to AWDC, and now we are looking for your input, for the input from the diamond companies. And we would like to ask you to help us assess whether these solutions fit the operational needs and the financial reality also of the companies here in our industry. So if you are interested in participating or if you want to give your feedback, then you can register today for this session on Friday, July 3rd at 11 a.m. We will host that meeting in our AWDC boardroom. It is important that you register for this session so we know how many people we can welcome at that moment. And register. You can register by scanning the QR code. Of course, we will also plan a separate communication to invite all of you, or the people who are interested in this to this session where these two providers will present themselves and their possible solutions for the diamond industry. And then the last thing to end this meeting or this town hall is a warm welcome to our upcoming summer event. We are organizing a small summer event right in front of the AWDC building, right before the Diamond holidays start on Thursday, July 16th, just around noon. And we are offering Belgische frietjes for everyone. And we were wishing you a very lovely holidays a couple of days later. So that was it for today. We are going to send you or share the recorded version of this town hall with you, like we always do. So people who want can review the town hall or can share with colleagues who couldn't be here today. And I wish you all a lovely day ahead and hope you all can find some refreshment today because it's very, very hot. And yeah, I see you next time. Thank you.